Family, welcome, welcome. Welcome to your next episode of Financial Freedom. I am your host, Derek Brown. Thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome to Hope TV. We started with one show, and with your views, with over 10 million views, we jumped from one show to 35. You can find us on almost all streaming platforms under the handle Hope TV. It's because of you, because of your time that you took to watch us, to support us, to share us, to hit like, that we're here doing what we can do today to bring you some more information pertaining to financial freedom. So thank you for being with us. We're going to get into our show today. The topic on this show that many people are scratching their heads about, and I'm hearing varying things about, is banking. Banking versus investment banking versus investment firms. Are you getting scammed? Where should your money go? How should you choose a bank, investment firm? There's so many questions, and luckily, I have someone with us who's going to be answering a lot of great questions today. This young man is incredible. Two bachelor's degrees, one in sales and marketing, and another in business administration. He also has experience in banking over 5 years. He saw three different promotions. He's gone through PNC's management training program. He's also found a business called Executive One Enterprises LLC. He's the managing partner of Buy Your Power Investment Group LLC. He's also a co-host of Kinfolk Talk. This man is incredible. Carlton, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having us, Derek. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Tell them your whole name, including the second.
Okay, everybody. I am Carlton L. Curry II, one of Atlanta's most influential real estate developers, investors, and financial curators. And I hope you guys are ready to go down that road of financial freedom with us today.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. Carlton, you actually represent something that we were just talking about on our last show with Miss Paula Watts.
Okay.
She's with the Atlanta Small Business Association, and one of her main points was that a key way for us to deal with creating a financial base for many African Americans is ownership and real estate. How do you feel about that?
Oh my God, I agree wholeheartedly. So just to give you a little background, I was in banking 5.5 years, so 5 years, 7 months to be
Mhm.
exact. I left banking August
Gotcha.
25th of 2019. And the reason I left banking because I pursued real estate full time. So I'm a full-time real
Right.
estate developer and investor. So I've been doing real estate
Okay.
investing and developing about 2 years. So right here in Atlanta alone, I own a minimum of 20 million in property just alone here in Atlanta.
Wow.
And I also have building
Wow.
6 townhome communities in Houston, Texas. So when I tell you, that's very vital to what you said about owning the land in which was ours in the beginning. Don't get me started now.
Look now, look. I might let you go too. I might let you go on that. Uh, okay. So before we get any further, you've already gone into your resume a little bit, but you've launched some businesses here, man. You've been busy. You've been doing some things. Will you tell us uh, what is Executive One Enterprises LLC?
So Executive One Enterprises is pretty much a consulting firm, and then I started that
Okay.
business on the principles of me being at the bank because I saw a lot of us, and when I mean us as an African American, coming into the banks, and it wasn't the fact that we didn't have the documents and stuff that we did. It's the fact that we didn't know. And as we all know, the Bible says we'll perish for a lack of knowledge. So just being
Right.
that was what the Executive One Enterprise derived from and birthed from was just making sure that I lead us to financial freedom by the expertise and knowledge that was bestowed upon me by coming through PNC Retail Development Leadership Program, where I had to learn all facets of the bank, even down to credit. When you think about credit,
Wow.
mortgage, merchants, anything that's dealing with finance, I had to learn it. And so, with that being said, I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to educate us and start my own consulting firm on how to become bank ready or financial free.
Got you. Got you. So your consulting firm is about education. It's about being able to spread that knowledge that you created. Was it
Absolutely.
hard for you to step out into in that arena as a young black man in that area? Was it difficult for you to get into to that place?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. At first, anything is hard when just going deep. Anything is hard when you're leaving or want to step out on faith. And I always
Right.
told myself, like, and I grew up in a spiritual background. Both of my parents are ministers, and so I knew. And science teaches us, in order for you to believe it, you first have to see it. Faith teaches
Mm,
me that God said, if you believe it, I then show it to you. So with that being said, I was just like, I'm gonna step out on faith. Even with the real estate, I stepped out and took those risks. And we're gonna get into that a little deeply too. We talking about risk because risk ties into investment.
right,
Whatever you invested in, you're
right,
taking that risk.
right,
But when I think of the word
right,
risk, I think of faith. They go hand in hand for me. Faith. I
right,
took a risky faith business, and I just stepped out because I know that faith comes from hearing, and hearing comes from the word of God. So I just literally, I never forget the day that I left my job. I was on my way to work, and
mm-hmm.
I just got, this revelation, and God just spoke to me clearly. He said, "This is your last day," and I was like, "Huh?"
Wow.
And like literally,
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
young. I'm a young African American guy here in Atlanta alone. My family's back in Alabama, and I'm like, "What you mean?"
Right.
Like I got bills. Like this is my last day, and literally I'll never forget walking in, and and I kind of be telling my friends these certain things, and God said, "I want you to practice what you're preaching, and not just reality, but this is
Mm,
actuality." And when I got there
right.
and I got to work and I typed up the email telling them this is my last day, effective immediately. My boss called me right then. Was like, "Is everything okay? You doing well in your career? You at the peak of your career? Like anything I can
Right.
do?" And I was like, "It's nothing you can do. It's nothing you can do." So for me, it wasn't hard because literally, I stepped out on faith, and I like to tell people all the time, I dropped a six-figure mindset to gain a seven-figure paycheck, and it was all right through
Wow.
just believing and trusting in
Okay.
God.
Oh, okay. Okay. You done jumped to a seven-figure paycheck. Okay. What I think is so incredible about that, though, and this is one thing I think I find incredible about your story, is that you soaked up all the information you could possibly find there. And that is such a pivotal thing. Um, it's one thing to step out on faith, it's another thing to step out on faith ignorant. You stepped out with a full mindset of financial information, which is incredible. Which is
Absolutely.
incredible.
Yes, and then when you say that, it makes me think of a revelation God gave me. He said, once you complete this assignment, that's when I was at that job. He said, once you complete this
Mm,
assignment, I will then destine you to your purpose. And I always tell
mm.
people your provision is in your purpose. In order for God to give you
All right,
provision, you first have to seek your purpose. And so once I
right.
found my purpose and stood out there, God gave me provision. And provision, if we know to break that down, is just supplying all your needs.
Got you. Got you. So when you stepped out in a major way, in a major way, you
Yes.
developed a consulting firm, and then you're also a managing partner of Buy Your Power Investment Group. So let me get this straight. You give them financial consult, and then you get them in a house? What?
Come on, somebody.
Tell me what's going on here.
So how did it
Tell
came
me what's going
about?
on.
If I'm doing the consultation side of it, the buy your power pretty much is like we're investors and developers. So those people that want to
Right.
invest their money, and I teach people how to invest their money into real estate because that's one of the things. Real estate is the pretty much the only thing that appreciates in value within a short amount of time. When you think about
Okay.
millionaires and billionaires, 90% of millionaires are that through owning real estate. So if that's a wheel
Mm,
that's not
okay.
broke, then that's something that you want to take heed in. We also know about other investment tools. You got your 401ks, you got your IRAs, you got your self IRAs, and those things. But those are pretty much not made. Um, and I wouldn't say for us, but they're not made really to make you any money, but for long term. They're not teaching us how to,
Let me
go ahead.
hold on. Let me get it. Let me get in right there, because I think you about to be on some good stuff right here. So, right. So here's my thing, and I've been hearing so much. it's I've heard people talk about banks as if they're a scam, right? Like they're not really going to give you any money. They're not really going to give you any interest on your cash. They're just holding your money while they take it and invest it in, and make moves with it. So when it comes between that and investing, first of all, help me understand if I'm looking to grow and expand and I want to do more, how should I look at financial institutions? How should I even approach them? If I want to deal with a bank or any financial institution, how should I mentally approach that institution?
Absolutely. So I think when you're thinking about banking, like one of the things that I was in banking, like that's one of my core things. But this is what I tell people: it all depends on what you're looking for. Banks is for something for you long term. Banks is something that when you're 60 years old, you know, you had that set up really through the bank and you got that all set up. That's what the bank is for. If you're looking for that right now freedom, and which we're living in it right now, like we want to make sure that we prepare for that long term, but also got some things going on for short term as well. Like I don't want to
Right.
become wealthy when I'm 65 and really can't do nothing but
Right.
pass it on
I
down to
get it. I
generations to come.
understand.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's
Right.
how you kind of look at the bank. But you want to make sure when you're 65, you're still good. So that's kind of like
Hmm.
where I'm at with it. I say that to say, if I'm going to do real estate, that's something that I can buy and flip a home right now. And I look at those type of investments, and with those investments, I can, you know, cash out on those in the next 6 months when I'm buying and flipping those homes. And that's kind of like your right
Right.
now money building. And you want to make sure that you putting that money that you earning, your interest and your principals, you want to make sure that you're putting that in a bank. You want to also make sure that you do have a retirement fund, whether you're working for yourself or for somebody else. You want to make sure that you have
Mhm.
that retirement fund. But you know how the retirement goes and sits there um, until like you're 60 plus, you know? So that's how that works.
So So let me ask you a question. When I was doing a little bit of research, I was curious because I feel like with different types of financial institutions and even different investments, you have to have a certain kind of mindset approaching them. So commercial banks is basically what you described. They hold your money, to your 65, Roth IRA, so on and so forth. But investment banking seemed a little different. They seem like they're the ones who, I don't know if those are principally for bigger companies or if their job is to help make you money or whatever the case may be. And then you have investment firms. What should be my mindset when it comes to dealing with, because you talked about real estate, which is like you said, is something that you can cash in more of the short or uh midterm goals. But do our goals also change depending on what kind of financial institution we're dealing with, like with investment banking or an investment firm, or
No,
do they
your
all do the
goals is
same
the,
thing? Would you help me understand?
they pretty much all do the same thing. How banks pretty much differentiate themselves is not really about the product; it's about the people. I always tell people, people bank with people, not the actual bank. So when you're thinking about
Okay,
the different products that they have and stuff like that, the banks pretty much offer the same exact people. You want to make sure that you building those relationships up and just keeping that going. So that's kind of how that works.
got you. So investment bank, commercial bank, they basically do the same thing.
The exact same thing. You could get accounts there.
Got
You
you.
could, because too, if, when you think about a commercial bank has things all, you know, all sectors. So they can do investments, they can do checking accounts, they can do mortgages. They just kind of look at themselves as a one-stop shop. But with an investment bank, they do like your checking account, and they kind of want to also deal with people with different types of funds. Like, okay, you got $250,000 in funds greater than what you currently have. Like, so that's kind of how they work.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
So they're dealing with multiple different types of income. They're managing that for you. Is that right?
Right, they're managing the money for you, but and then once again, it's case by case. And what I mean by case is pretty much
Okay.
how, let's say, whatever you want to decide to do with the money. So if you want to put $250,000 into, you know, that investment fund to, I don't know, let's say to just for a Self RA, and you know, for long term, because too they pay dividends a little to nothing. Like they got these savings
Mm,
and they're not paying anything for real on these savings, but they got people holding off. So that's kind of how that works. So,
got you. Got you.
so that's kind of how
Okay.
I work with that.
So it sounds like, if I'm right, when they come to you, you're like, yeah, y'all can hold that real quick, but I'm gonna make some money over here so I can live. I can live how I need to live.
Right, for right now. I want to enjoy life right now. So that's kind of exactly how that works. I always tell people this too. When you're thinking about an investment or the banks or anything of that nature, make sure that you have your own goals and your own drive, your own mission, your own purpose of what you want out of life up front. Because you don't want to get into these things and just tell these people anything and they make the decision for you. Because at the end of the day, we as bankers, that's what I used to do. We get paid based off what product we put you in. So if I'm making these decisions for you, I'm actually making it for myself of what's going to pay me in the right now. Does that make sense? So you don't
Yeah,
want
it
to
does.
go.
It does.
You don't want to go in there and have them do that for you. Not at all.
Okay. Okay.
So you
So
you definitely don't want to do that.
so mm, so if I'm
hmm
hearing you right, your bank is gonna heavily depend on what your goals are.
And that's
Whatever you
exactly what
whatever you're
they should
trying
do.
to
They
do.
should only do on what your goals are. They on your goals, not their goals. So that's why I always tell people too, like, cause I used to get that all the time. People come in, let's say if you was left an inheritance from your grandparents or you got a good lump sum from tax returns, whatever the case may be. People used to come
Right.
in and be like, I don't know what to do. I just need you to tell me what to do. And like that's too hard because you're thinking about your life and like, okay, if I put them in this product, it'll pay me well, but it really ain't the best product for them.
Mm,
Or like I could put them over here and it might not pay me well, but this is the right thing for them. So I always tell people come in with your own, go do your own homework, do your own due diligence on the type of products and that that you want to invest in when you're dealing with these banks. And a lot of people do like to use that word scam. I want to go back to that. It's not a
okay.
scam at all.
Mm,
It's not a scam. When you think about the way of life, you just want to make sure that you understand, and all you're getting is get an understanding, as we all know. So you want to make sure that
right.
you're seeking an understanding of everything that you're requesting out of anything that you're doing, because it becomes
Mm,
so hard to just live life based off the structure of the world and how they're structuring all of us to live. And I always tell people when you're on this side of
mm,
the ballpark of the know and the know-hows, then you come out swinging the bat and winning every single time. You know what I'm saying? Because
right.
you don't want to be lost in this world because people, that's how they capitalize off people being lost. Like the world, the banks,
Mm,
everybody, bad credit because people are lost. It's not that you can't, bad credit is a bad thing. Not getting it restored is actually a bad thing because you can get your credit restored.
mm,
Then you got people out here that do credit restorations. These large companies, they charge you a monthly fee back to back to back to back, and they're not really getting it done because people don't actually know. They're just paying the fee and thinking they know, allowing somebody else to take it in their hand. But you got to understand, a lot of times people do things to benefit them, and that's kind of how the bank works.
right.
And I want to go a little deep too when I talk about the bank. Like
Please do.
when I was in the retail development leadership program, the bank talked a lot. They talked a lot about checking and savings. And so when I think
Okay.
about the checking part and the savings part, they teaches us to save our money. Now the bank take the money
Mm,
that we save that they want us to put in our savings
right.
account. They take our money and they invest our money on the foreign exchange. They also invest our money into
Yeah.
mortgages. So they invest our money
Right.
into credit cards. So when you think about all of this, like they'll charge you 10% to 20% on a credit card on
Right.
money that's in other people's
Exactly.
savings account. So they
Right.
teaches you
Right.
OPM. In bank, they teaches us OPM. OPM means other people's money. They teach you how to get rich off other people's money. And that's the way of life. And
Mm,
I promise you, once I got to understand this, I'm like, this is not really for us to win. It's for them to win. But once I understood the principles of everything, I began to win.
right.
And that's when they became so scared of me
Right.
and those things. So I couldn't I couldn't just fathom the fact, and that's what really started Executive One. Like, I want to
Mm,
educate my people, let them know what's really going on and like how to become. I always say one of my favorite books is the Cash Flow Quadrant. So when I think,
Right.
one of the reasons the Cash Flow Quadrant talks about being on the right side of the quadrant. When you think of the right side of the quadrant,
Hmm.
it's business owners and money is working for you, and it's also investments. When you think about that right side,
Right.
the left side is
Right.
employees and also business owners, but they're self-employed business owners. That means they work for themselves. You want to be in a
Hmm.
process of where your money is working for you. You're not working for it. And that's the right side of the quadrant. And
Right.
that's what big, large financial institution has become. They become the right side of the quadrant where their money is truly working for them and they're not working for the money.
Right. So let me ask you this. You have had incredible experience, right? You spent several years at a bank, you soaked up all this information. So if I'm a viewer watching the show, I automatically go, okay, if I'm not him, right? If I haven't had the opportunity to soak up all this information, where do I go? What resource do I look at? To be able to amass the type of knowledge I need to move forward.
Some of my favorite reads is A Millionaire Mindset. You also have a lot of Robert Kiyosaki books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. And I like
Right.
those because it teaches you pretty much the rat race of money, and that
Mhm.
mindset. And it's not all about the money, it's about true wealth. And when I think about true wealth, I'm talking about mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. So that's how you
Right.
master true wealth. And it talks about that. And it all talks about the mindset. And what brings me back to, a biblical standpoint, what a man thinketh, so is he. So
Right.
that's
Right.
pretty much, what's the root cause of it is. And when I got to understand, I'm like, it's really not hard. It's just that we don't know. And I know one of the things that I always heard, like, you put it in a book and we won't read it. And then I began to
Okay.
do research. I began to do research on that, like, what did that stem from? And then for me, like, I love to get deep. I love to read, and I love to just meditate and
Right.
allow God to, like, even take me there.
Mhm.
And when I thought about that, and it said put it in a book, and to hide it from us, it comes from too. And I know it's so true because even when I started to research where I was from, when you think about putting it in a book, when I look at the libraries wasn't in our side of the neighborhood. The libraries across
Mm.
town in their neighborhood. I even looked here in Atlanta. Most of your
Right.
permanent libraries are in their side of the neighborhoods. And we just got all the Dr. Seuss books. But when you think about good reads, they didn't really focus on us. And I'm like, this is a lot of time they would put these stimulus out there or certain things out there, catchphrases or phrases that relates to us, and I see where it all comes about. So I just say now is the
Got you.
time for us as African Americans to take a stand, make sure that we move forward, even in this banking and this financial freedom race, because this is our time. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And I tell you, we are not the minorities anymore. We truly going to come and run and conquer the world, one person at a time.
Let me say this because you had a quote, and we may have to pick this up later in the conversation. But there's a quote that says, and I love this quote, by the way. It's on your website. I love this quote. And it says, our goal is to be Lord over our land by investing in a vision that's greater than us, which will create generational wealth. Our desire is to assist others to travel down the road of financial freedom. That is an incredible quote to me. Like, I love that quote. It's probably one of the best statements I've read just on the website. And it talk and I think it hit me too because I'm still digesting also last week's episode with Miss Watts when she talked about how creating generational wealth, and she's a multimillionaire by now.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to pass that down also links into very much what you just mentioned of the idea of the time to take advantage of things, to make financial moves, to be able to set stuff up, to read, to make sure that we're educating ourselves, to make that move. The time to make that move is now. So let me ask you this, and then we're quickly running out of time. I'm so sorry. Hang out with me. We're gonna talk a little bit. If you had to give 3 steps to take for anybody watching to work towards their own financial freedom, what would they be?
For one, purpose. For two, Credit, making sure that you got the credit.
Mm,
And three,
been hearing a lot
seek
about
out
that.
credible mentors. Seek out credible mentors in the financial
Mm,
industry. So those will be my first steps. Because too, oftentimes I always tell people you need to have your good lawyer on your team. You need to have your good banker on your team, and that will be, pretty much going back into step number three. But to repeat, make sure you find your purpose, because if you know your purpose, then you know what you're going in with, and you're determined, and
okay.
you're gonna seek that. I always tell people, seek opportunity and not passion. Self-educate. That's
Okay.
all dealing with your purpose. Focus on your why. That's all dealing with your purpose. Two, credit. I said credit is so important because oftentimes us in our community, we lack the credit piece. We could be at the closing table,
Mm,
we can be getting all the funds
yeah.
that they can get, but our credit hinders us because that's something that we suffer with within our community. And with me studying credit, I would tell people 6 out of 10 credit reports all have errors on them. So you want to make sure that you seek out, different. They got Experian, they got Credit Check Total, they got Score Sense, they got Identity Theft, they got Free Credit Report Annually.com. All of these sites for you to log in and check your credit and get it restored if need be. Renew, repair, restore, all of those things. And then step number
He
three.
said all of them.
You're right. And step number three, just seek out credible mentors within the financial
Okay.
industry, like the lady you spoke on last week. For
Mm,
me, if anybody needs to reach out, like definitely do so, like just to get your life in order.
got you. Okay, so with that being said, Mr. Carlton, where can we find you at?
You guys can find me. I want you guys to do two things. I want you to follow Christ and follow me on Instagram at My Life is Carl, and that's MYLIFEASCARL, and also on Facebook at Carlton L. Curry II.
Got you, man. Got you. Well, Mr. Carlton, thank you so much for being with us. If you hang out, we'll do a little bit more chatting. Family, thank you so much for being with us this week. It's been a pleasure having Mr. Carlton. I hope that you gained some good information from this episode, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Family, until then, be safe out there.